Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today I am begging Destiny 2 players to start getting more creative with their builds and think outside the box when it comes to their old favorites that have long been dormant sitting in their vault, or new weapons that they dismiss entirely because they're not instantly broken when they first try it out. And I say this for several reasons. I've seen some people already complaining about how even though we have artifact perks for trace rifles, they're still not as good as rocket sidearms. They still won't use glaives, even though they are in the best position that I think they've ever been as far as how useful and effective they can be. I even make some builds right now that combine glaives and trace rifles in a double special combination that is incredibly effective because of how you can use each of them and how you can set up the artifact mods this episode. And yes, I can be guilty of using the meta for certain activities, like a Grandmaster Nightfall. I use a rocket sidearm, and it is very, very effective. However, there's a lot of activities in this game. There's the Nether, there's Court of Oryx, there's Rushdown, which I think are very fun, and if you're farming them, you might find it more efficient to use some different options rather than just what the quote-unquote meta is. And that's something that I try to push on players all the time. I'm working on builds for this upcoming week with trace rifles, with glaives, everything included, just to try to shake things up as much as possible and show that it is viable to use these things not only in expert versions of those other pieces of content, but also the base versions if you're trying to do them as quickly as possible. I routinely outperform players using meta options by using a mix of something like Microcosm, the exotic heavy trace rifle, which is insane right now and very, very effective, especially with some of the artifact mods that people probably don't even know it works with. It does work alongside Elemental Siphon, and very well, in my opinion, to do extra super damage, to do extra damage for the weapon as well with some of these options. And there's just so many fun possibilities that I think people just are so hard stuck playing the things that they know other people have told them are effective. I want to use Ruinous Effigy, and this is where I'm going to go back and say, if you have a vault that has over 600 items, and you have items in there, if you have weapons in there that you have not used in multiple years, right? If it's been a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be, now is the time to either try them out, make a build with them. I'm just begging players, go through, try to make a build with any of those old weapons, see how they feel. If they don't feel good, if they don't feel effective, even if they're not the meta currently, but you haven't used them in several years, get rid of them. There's no reason to hoard all of these old items and then complain about vault space when they are probably never going to be viable and used, because oftentimes what we see is that by the time they introduce buffs to a certain type of weapon or item, then what ends up happening is they release new weapons or updated versions of that weapon alongside the buffs. This season, we got the trace rifle artifact perks, and we got several new trace rifles, including the trace rifle with the dungeon, which is very good. We also got a trace rifle this Guardian games as well, and we got a trace rifle exotic also. And so keep that in mind when you're considering your vault and what weapons you're using. Go back through, take the time. The best thing when we have a down period with Destiny 2 is to try something different in order to find the fun that might have been missing. I think some of the most enjoyable experience that I have with Destiny is running some of the new content like the Nether, like these other activities, with builds that don't seem like they should work. Exotic armors, exotic weapons, old legendary weapons, but seeing how successful I can be and how effective they are ultimately. And if I'm not going to use a weapon for a long time, it doesn't make sense to keep it around, especially ones that you can either craft again or you can farm in the future, because we'll have updated versions. And yeah, this is kind of a rant, but I just see a lot of people automatically kind of crapping on trace rifles right now and saying, okay, well, they are good, but they're not good enough. They're not effective enough for me to use in builds. And I'm going to be completely honest when I say the majority of Destiny 2, even the expert versions of the Nether and Court of Oryx, those types of activities, is relatively easy if you set yourself up correctly. There's so much healing in the game. There's so many different options. You can really play effectively with a wide variety of different options as long as you are aware of the type of activity you're taking on, the ad density, all that kind of good stuff as well. So it's just one of those ideas that people get in their head that they have to play a certain way. And everyone has their favorite playstyle. Maybe you have favorite weapons that you use that are, you only want to use hand cannons at any given time. And that's fine and fair. But also then there's no reason to use, to keep all those weapons in your vault that you're never going to use because you don't want to check out anything but a hand cannon. So again, things to keep in mind. I feel like it is one of those almost annual PSAs I like to make about the game that is for people who say the game has lost its luster. And I understand that. It's a 10-year-old franchise. We've had Destiny 2 for something like 8 years right now. It's been around for a very long, 7 years maybe, but it's been around for a very long time. And at a certain point, you're going to have done and seen everything. And a bit of nostalgia can be good. Like, I think Rushdown, I made a video on this, is one of my favorite modes. And the reason for that is because of a bit of nostalgia. Some of the old favorite pieces of content that I missed. I forgot that how the Witness fight goes down, or the Savathun fight goes down, or some of these nightmare hunts that I haven't done in ages. So I do feel like there is this mix of fresh and old that I think is where the sweet spot of Destiny 2 finds itself right now. If you can have that little bit of nostalgia, you can bring back old favorite memories by using weapons that maybe you loved at first but have fallen off, and you can play some new content that is pretty exciting. I think that is where you are potentially going to have a bit more fun with Destiny 2 than just using the same loadout day after day, month after month, just because it's the quote-unquote best, and then all of a sudden you find yourself bored because you are playing the same way each and every day. Anyway, that's enough of ramble and a rant for me. I just want people to try to use trace rifles and glaives. That's at the end of the day. Go use them, try them out, see how they feel. I'm in the content you're watching. I am using a Hollow Denial as well as a Microcosm, so double trace rifle. I've even tossed on sometime Refusal of the Call instead of the Mirror Imago, which I'm using in the gameplay as well. And yeah, it's very, very effective and very good to use if you just want to have a bit of fun shenanigans. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know why. I'm sure I'll get some backlash on this one just because people will say that they need to use the meta, and that's fair. That's fine. But anyway, my name is Jopa. Enjoy the video. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.